alaikum. My name is Amir Siddiqui. I was born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Grew up to Jain Hindu parents, and grew up in a household, I guess, that very nurturing. Right at the end of the day, it was parents were definitely people that looked up to what their kids were doing, brought them up in an environment to the best of their abilities. My dad is the eldest of 12 in his family, so the eldest male. So he was always the one taking on responsibility for his families, his brothers and his sisters, and he treated his family kind of the same way. Sometimes actually sacrificed his own family for his brothers and sisters' goods and kind of what they did. At the age of 4, moved to New York City, grew up in Flushing, Queens. And again, there we grew up in an environment that was, again, very nurturing from a family environment point of view. But again, being first generation in the Americas, living in an environment that you don't know the people around you, and you're kind of in a place where you are learning as well as your parents are learning. They're trying to get established. They're trying to get their foothold in what they're doing in life. It was challenging, right? We were not very well off. I would actually say we were below the midline, high end of poor, low end of middle, and we grew up right in the streets of New York City, of Flushing, Queens, and that was, alhamdulillah, for 12 years. So I started second grade there. Second grade. Started about kindergarten, first grade there, and then up to the age of 16, 17, 18. It's kind of like a regular childhood. You're going through your life, you're making your friends, you're kind of getting to know everybody around you. But then during that time frame, I also started, the community around you, it's very tight, right? So I met a lot of Indian friends, a lot of Pakistani friends, a lot of Bangladeshi friends. And we just started noticing during that 16, 17, 18-year-old time frame when kids' minds are curious. They want to know what's going on in life. Why am I doing something this way versus, kind of why are they doing it that way? And one of the families that were really close to us, the kids would always be at Sunday school for Islamic Sunday school, and we'd all be like, we just got through school 5 days a week. Why are you going to school again on a Sunday, right? Like, we're outside playing. But then you start seeing their environment, you start seeing the way they act and behave, and that has a little bit of an influence on you. That wasn't the time when I kind of considered everything that I was going through and what I did. But then, alhamdulillah, I got accepted to go to college at West Virginia University. And when I went to West Virginia, it was just kind of more curiosity. You started thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's the purpose of life, right? Why was I born? What's the greater meaning of what I have to get accomplished in this world? And alhamdulillah, there I met one of the local imams who, again, it was probably, a 5x5 little mosque in the middle of Morgantown, West Virginia. And he kind of brought me in with the purpose of just kind of teaching me, right? Not really thinking I was going to convert. But then, alhamdulillah, I did. First freshman year of college, I converted. So back in 1986, I converted. And that's how I kind of started learning. And it just happened to be that it happened to be a Sunni mosque. It could have been a Shia mosque. It could have been a Wahhabi mosque. It could have been anything, just to learn kind of the concepts. And at that time, I didn't know there was a difference. Islam was Islam to me. Didn't know that there was all these sects and kind of what we did and how we got there. And then, alhamdulillah, from that time period on, I think we've just been learning about it, just been understanding what Islam is, why it is what it is. I think understanding the difference of growing up in an environment, for those of you out there in the community that know a lot of people in the Jain faith, they're Gujarati, very, very kind of, Jain is considered probably, if you think about the hierarchy in the Hindu religion, Jain is, close to the top. So very, very religious from a perspective of, everything that Islam teaches. It's kind of take care of yourself, don't lie, don't cheat, treat others like you want to be treated. They don't eat meat, they're vegetarian, so on and so forth. So if you really think about the upbringing that I had, yes, I didn't pray, yes, I didn't do X, Y, and Z, but also I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't eat meat. I didn't do all the things that you would consider kind of part of what you would consider anybody else that was thinking about converting, saying, wow, these are going to be tough. So actually, the reason I believe, alhamdulillah, that I am the Muslim that I am today and what I've done is because of my parents, right? They raised me in a way that allowed me to be a better Muslim. I just happened to have, Allah just provided me the light to kind of get to the path that I'm in now. So during college, I think very similar circumstances. I kind of learned on my own. I read books and again, at that time, there was no internet, there was no Amazon, none of those things where you could order books online. You read what you got. You read what was in the local masjid, and you talked to people, right? So again, no concept of what's the difference between a Sunni and a Shia and all the other sects that were out there. It was just learning the religion, which was the kind of the basics of what I was trying to get done. I probably, first couple of years still just praying namaz was with the book on the floor, because, when you kneel, you're kind of trying to read exactly what you have to say when you go into ruku and what you're going to do and how to make azan. And so it's kind of just like you're studying for a test or you're studying to be a doctor or a lawyer. You're kind of learning the basics of what your profession is going to be all about. I would say halfway through college, my parents found out that I had converted. Obviously, I think in all Asian cultures, it doesn't make a difference what religion you're a part of. When your parents find out you're doing something they don't want you to be doing, it becomes a massive, massive conversation, and it did. And I think still to this day, it's I would say it hasn't brought us closer, but it's closer than when we were back then, right? And from that day forward, you kind of learn to live your life through what you want to become in life, because they did what any parent would do, which was to say, if you're going to go move forward in this path, we can't support you. We're not going to live by you. We're not going to help you. And the parents put you in a position to try to make you change your decisions. So whether it's smoking, drinking, doing this or doing that, my bad thing was becoming a Muslim, right? So I guess they pressured me into a position where I had to go learn on my own. I had to go live with friends. I had to go make money on my own, and I had to go to school on my own, and I had to support myself. And alhamdulillah, that in a certain way, it makes you a much better person later in life. That time during your life, you definitely feel like I made the wrong decision. I'm putting myself in a really bad spot here. But alhamdulillah, since then, I mean, mashallah say, I've got 3 beautiful kids today, got married, and alhamdulillah, I've kind of taught them through the basics that I know of Islam. Allah Mia always provides a door for you when you think one door closes, another door opens up. So actually back then when my parents we went through this hard times, I met up with a friend who I went to high school with, just bumped into him at the mosque. And obviously he was surprised, saying, "What are you doing here at the mosque? Like, I know you, I grew up with you." His family actually took me in. So alhamdulillah, there were 4 brothers and a sister. They lived in Bayside, Queens, and pretty much I became the 5th brother, right? I was part of the family. I celebrated Eid with them. I was pretty much in their house every day, learning how a Muslim family lives together. And it's still different, right? It's still, you're not part of the family, but you are very, very part of the family, and you feel it inside, right? You don't show it outside. But I think this is where I saw for me, the brighter side of Islam, where people take you in. There's no reason this family had to take me in. There's no reason this family had to treat me like one of their own and teach me the religion specifically the way they knew the religion, right? So they happened to be Sunnis as well, right? Another just kind of chance in faith. It could have been anybody, right? And so I learned from them. I mean, to this day, they are my brothers. To this day, we call each other up every month. We talk about each other. They're still in New York, and they've the oldest brother. He's come down, and when all 3 of my sons were born, he's the one that came down and we shaved the head and we do all that stuff. He's come down and done all that. He's the one for 2 of them that read the azan in their ears, when they were born. So alhamdulillah, it's truly like my older brother and kind of what they've taught me through my life. I think as life has progressed, I've alhamdulillah, I married my wife Siddiqa, who at the time, again, I didn't know the differences between Sunni, Shia, and so on and so forth. But I met her at the family that I just mentioned. Youngest brother that I was the closest with, met her at his wedding, and since then we just kind of started talking. The families started talking, and the families kind of talked to each other and said, "Hey, what's going on? Who is he?" And I kind of asked about her to her uncle and aunt, and it kind of progressed to where we are in life now. And that's kind of when I started picking up on the differences, right? So the first time I actually probably understood the difference, that there was different sects, was actually in West Virginia when I was in college. The imam there, and maybe every Friday at the sermon, maybe there was 20 people in the room. I mean, that's how small the town was and how many Muslims there were from around the world in that little town. One of the sermons that he was talking about was one of the people in the community had converted to Shiaism. And I didn't know what it was, right? I was just like, oh, maybe he did something bad, and they're talking about why it's okay to go do that, right? And I had no concept of it. But then after I got married, I met my wife's parents in Pakistan, her sisters, and then her cousins and their in-laws, and alhamdulillah, I think that what I notice in a lot of the people that I meet is there's absolutely discrimination across the world. There's discrimination in every faith. There's discrimination in every religion. There's discrimination in every sect, right? They took me in as one of their own. They kind of knew about me and they'd met me over the phone, but they'd never met me in person. She had come here for her studies and for work, and they happened to live in Pakistan, so we had never met face to face. So we got married through her uncle and aunt and so on and so forth. But they took me in, and there was no concept of, well, you pray like this, or you talk like this, or you believe in this. It was just, what's your belief? And my belief was very simple. I believe in Islam. And a lot of people would ask me, well, what does that mean? And I would say, at the time of Rasulullah, did anybody ask what type of Islam you believe in? You believed in what Rasulullah taught. That's what I believed in. That's what I've learned. That's the books that I read, right? But then obviously after that, I started seeing the differences in, okay, what happened, after Rasulullah passed on, after, kind of the imamat was passed on, and started reading books like Then I Was Guided, which was probably my first book that I kind of realized, okay, there is some differences here, and it's logical. It's not, I don't think there's any perspective that you would look at to say that there was a political gain here or a financial gain here. It was all logical. It's based on the time, based on the fact, based on power, based on so many different things, and absolutely all those factors were probably into it. There was financial gain, there was political gain, there was what's the right thing to do by the community, so on and so forth. And to me, logically, again, I see Islam as a logical religion, right? There's nothing in Islam that you can debate and say that doesn't make sense. You can ask a lot of questions, but there's usually a very good answer associated with it. One of the reasons I kind of looked into Islam right from the beginning, and sorry I'm going back here a little bit, is because of that. Is because my parents absolutely pray. We have idols in our home, and they still live in the same home we grew up in. And you go to a temple, but it's the fact of what do the idols do, the stories you hear, the kind of reading their versions of what the Quran and the Bible and so on and so forth, and what they call the Bhagavad Gita, and understanding that some of those stories you kind of go, it sounds like a story. It doesn't sound like there's anything here. So that kind of sparks your interest. And Islam was all logic, right? There was no certain reason. Why do you pray? You pray to remember God. Okay, that makes sense, right? There's nothing you can kind of debate about that. There's a very simple reason behind it. Why is the month of Eid and what's the month of Ramadan for? To show sacrifice, to show what you have and how you're more blessed than other people in your lives. Okay, makes sense, right? I mean, it's all logical. There's nothing that somebody could say to you and go, oh, hey, this you have to believe this way, this you have to think about this way, or, do angels exist? I had a tough time with that one, right? Because I was like, yeah, I can't really debate that. I can't see it. I don't see it for myself, right? But alhamdulillah, over time, that's faith, right? Faith is you either believe in something 100% whether you see it or not. And I think that's probably how I've matured as an individual, right? A lot of the things in the beginning, again, you think about it when you're 18, 19, 20, for all of you watching, everybody went through certain moments in their life, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And if you're today in your mid-40s like I am, you probably look back and you go, okay, yeah, that was, kind of a tough situation that I went through. Probably wouldn't make the same decision again that you made today. But alhamdulillah, I think that's what's helped mature me, kind of bring me to the perspective I'm at now, and help me learn all the different aspects of where I am today. So I would still consider myself learning. My kids, alhamdulillah, they absolutely, my two older sons were definitely brought up, quote unquote, in a Sunni household. We did everything one way. We prayed one way. We kind of acted one way. But my youngest one, alhamdulillah, he's 8 years old. He's probably as much a Shia as anybody else. He's gone to Shia school starting from age 2. He goes to madrasa every Sunday. He knows the call to azan. He knows the differences. He knows why not. So in my family, that's the big difference. We go to Sunni masjids on Friday for Jummah namaz, but then on Jummah or on a Saturday or Sunday, we'll be at the madrasa praying with my Shia brothers. And alhamdulillah, I haven't seen, I phrase it a different way. What I've seen is just openness. What I've seen is people look at that aspect and they go, that's great that, you're kind of looking into certain aspects of your life and trying to deliver on different